Well, I think people must go to my show because it's not just a story that I've been told needs to be told, and that can connect to lots of different people, lots of different experiences. Um, but it's also a mission. So for as long as I perform my show, um, for my lifetime, for as long as I decide to perform it. Half of all the profits that would be made from this show are going to get donated to a mental health charity organization foundation that's doing really, really awesome and impactful and like meaningful work in the worlds of mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and overall mental wellness. I'm supporting the JED Foundation, JED Foundation, and they're a foundation that supports struggling teens and young adults who are struggling with mental health issues. So I think folks must see my show for the story that it is, but also to be a part of the mission, to be a part of the cause, to be a part of the storytelling heals movement in its very first hurrah, its very first foray into existence. Um, because they can make a direct impact not only on my life from supporting my show and seeing uh, seeing my show and hearing the story, uh, but also they can with the purchase of a ticket, they could uh, have a direct impact on somebody who really needs help um, in the movement as a whole. So yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's a very important thing that this story gets out there and this movement keeps moving and keeps growing. Yeah, yeah. So vital, so important. Greetings. My name is Christion Ty Edwards. My show is called The Sad Life of a Happy Man. If you'd like to hear more about it, continue on and listen to this talk. The idea behind The Sad Life of a Happy Man has been with me. It's been with me for a long time. Uh, So I've had sort of the desire or the itch to scratch, if you will, to perform a solo show, a one-man show for a long time. I'd say at the very least, excuse me, I'd say at the very least when I was a freshman in college, uh, and then sort of through my life in college, I uh, while there were many great things that happened, I also struggled greatly with depression and anxiety, and also started going to therapy for the first time and learned a lot about myself and how to navigate the world. And my senior year was especially hard. My senior year was actually kind of hell. Uh, and during my senior year, I took an independent study with a professor I admire very much. And that independent study, and this is the story I tell everybody, the independent study went up in flames, ended in total disaster, just did not end well. But what came out of it was the very first edition, the very first draft of my show, The Sad Life of a Happy Man. Uh, and it was a one act version. I had written it as if I could clone myself, or just a bunch of different actors could play the different roles, but each of the different characters were written to be different pieces of me. They make up different pieces of who I am. Um, yeah, and I think in the moment, pretty much, I kind of thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to turn this into a solo show one day. Um, and so it kind of sat fallow until 2020. And then when we were in quarantine, uh, yeah, a friend of mine back here from DC, the DC area, was doing an online intensive on creating your own solo show, kind of from start to finish, the whole writing to performing, producing, all that stuff. Um, and it kind of happened at the perfect time. And I was like, I think this needs to finally go somewhere. And in a time where we were, I think, getting to reflect on a lot individually and personally and collectively as a nation and as a world, um, it just felt like, okay, this is the time for this to come to life. And so, yeah, so there was a part of me that just had to dive in. The play really is about five different pieces of myself kind of coming to terms with each other. Um, So if we had to label a protagonist or a main character, that character is called the man, and we're seeing the man's journey from the start of the show to the end of the show. And the man has given himself the task to create a piece of art, whatever that turns out to be. And the other parts of him that are in the show, and the other parts of me, are other than the man, are the artist, the fraud, the clown, and the human being. And so, and exploring how each of those characters are different from each other and how they do different things from each other. Um, and so, if the man can create a piece of art without the artist, without, the fraud needing to, you know, uh, serve his purpose and just other stuff like that, um, then he knows that he's meant for something. His life has purpose, um, and he's racing a clock. And if that clock runs out and he can't create anything in that time, um, then his life ends. Um, so it kind of weaves and navigates through different moments of that. Uh, and it's an interesting thing to write a show that takes place inside your own mind. So can get a little wild at times. But yeah, that's sort of the main sort of the main journey that we take and that we see being taken in this show. But yeah, it always just kind of it always felt right. It just felt like the move. I just felt called to do it. I think what I want the audience to most get out of my play is to get to get a glimpse of even just a glimpse or a glimmer, a even a slight feeling of what it's like uh, to be someone who gets very lost, and to see at least a little bit of how that journey can feel through theater, um, and what that can look like even on the inside through theater, um, and to people who perhaps are on or have been on a similar journey to mine with their mental health, with their feelings about their purpose, their existence, their meaning, um, their worthiness, their self love, their lack of self love, whatever it might be. Um, those who see a bit of their story, or at least something they can connect to in that way in this show. Um, a reminder, or perhaps the very first lesson ever to them, that they are not alone, that they are not the only ones who feel that way, and that a lot of healing, at the end of the day, a lot of healing can come from exploring your emotions and exploring your own story. A lot of healing can come from storytelling. There's a whole sort of movement I'm doing with this show called the Storytelling Heals movement. Um, and it's very much in its infancy right now, but it's about, uh, but at its core, it's about, healing ourselves and perhaps healing the world by using story and through story, and just how powerful that can be. Um, so yeah, I want folks to know perhaps a little bit of what it's like, and other folks to know, um, that, yeah, they're not alone, and they're not the only ones who feel this, um, and that whatever sort of situation they might be in terms of how they're feeling, where their life is, that is not a permanent, like, stop. That is just a another, even if it's huge, it's just another stop on the journey, on the big road trip of life, um, and that there's more to come, and that, um, they can make it to the other side. Well, I think people must go to my show because it's not just a story that I've been told needs to be told, and that can connect to lots of different people, lots of different experiences. Um, but it's also a mission. So for as long as I perform my show, um, for my lifetime, for as long as I decide to perform it, half of all the profits that would be made from this show are going to get donated to a mental health charity organization foundation that's doing really, really awesome and impactful and like meaningful work in the worlds of mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and overall mental wellness. I'm supporting the JED Foundation, JED Foundation, and they're a foundation that supports struggling teens and young adults who are struggling with mental health issues. So I think folks must see my show for the story that it is, but also to be a part of the mission, to be a part of the cause, to be a part of the Storytelling Heals movement in its very first hurrah, its very first foray into existence. Because they can make a direct impact not only on my life from supporting my show and seeing uh, seeing my show and hearing the story, but also they can, with the purchase of a ticket, they could uh, have a direct impact on somebody who really needs help um, in the movement as a whole. So yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's a very important thing that this story gets out there and this movement keeps moving and keeps growing. And that's kind of what I feel like I'm doing. I'm sharing a piece of my soul with whoever decides to come and see it. And I hope many folks do come and see it because I think story and the impact and the power of story is needed more than ever today. Um, and I think my show can at least be a little shred of that. Um, and I've been told, I keep being told that it can, it's a that it can move people. And so I think I have to finally have the security in myself to believe that. My name is Christion Ty Edwards. My show is called The Sad Life of a Happy Man. I would love to see any and all of y'all there. And remember that you're not only supporting me when you come see the show, you're supporting the JED Foundation, you're supporting the Storytelling Heals movement, you're becoming a part of the movement for mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and making a difference in the lives of those who are struggling and most often struggling in silence. So yeah, I would be truly honored. I'd be truly honored to see all y'all in the audience.